Man, the crypto markets, you gotta love them, right? Always something happening. But Dogecoin, lately, it's been a real roller coaster, hasn't it?
Yeah, for sure it has.
We've seen a huge trading volume, crazy price swings. Just looking back at the start of April, it's been wild.
It really shows you, I think, just how much energy there is in the crypto space.
Yeah.
And Dogecoin is a perfect example of that.
Absolutely. So that's what we're going to do today, really dig deep into Dogecoin. You sent me a bunch of articles, some analysis, all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
And we thought it would be super helpful to unpack it all. What's causing these big price jumps? What are the experts saying about where Dogecoin might go in the future? We're going to try to cut through all the noise so you can really understand what's going on.
I think that's really important. There's a lot of hype out there, and it can be hard to separate fact from,
Fiction.
Exactly.
So to do that, we've got a whole mix of sources here. We've got straight up news reports about the recent price action. We've got some pretty technical analysis, and we've even got some long-term price predictions, just to get a sense of the big picture.
That long-term stuff is always interesting, gets you thinking.
For sure. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's start with what happened in early April 2025. It looks like there was a pretty significant jump in Dogecoin's price.
Yeah, there was. Right around April 10th, I think it was, Dogecoin went up by 6.6%, hit about 0.156 centers.
Okay, so not a bad little bump there. What caused that?
Well, get this. It was actually because of news about trade tariffs. They paused some tariffs, and that sent a ripple through the whole crypto market, really. Kind of a surprise, right? You wouldn't necessarily connect trade tariffs to crypto.
Yeah, you don't immediately think, oh, tariffs are on hold, Dogecoin's going to go up. So why do you think Dogecoin reacted so strongly to that?
Well, I think it just shows you how interconnected everything is these days. The global economy, it all ties together, even for something like crypto, which is supposed to be decentralized. And when you get good news about the economy, like a pause on tariffs, well, people feel more confident, more willing to take risks, maybe. And that can lead to more investment in all sorts of assets, including crypto.
Makes sense. Okay, so we had this price surge, and that had some pretty big consequences for traders, right? I seem to remember reading something about a lot of liquidations.
Oh, yeah, for sure. In that 24-hour period, around that price jump, a ton of Dogecoin positions got liquidated. We're talking about 71,190,773 million Doge.
Hold on. How much was that in dollars?
Over $11 million liquidated, just like that.
Wow. Okay, so back up a second. For anyone who's not familiar with this stuff, what does it mean when a position gets liquidated?
Okay, so imagine you're a trader and you're using leverage. That means you're basically borrowing money to make a bigger bet. Now, if the price moves against you, and it moves against you enough, well, you get liquidated. That means your position gets automatically closed out to cover the money you borrowed.
Ouch. So who got hit hardest by these liquidations?
Well, it was definitely the short traders. They were betting that Dogecoin's price would go down, and when it went up instead, well, they lost big. We're talking about $6.81 million in losses for the short traders, compared to just $4.45 million for the long traders, who were betting on the price going up.
Interesting. So that kind of suggests that most people were caught off guard by that sudden price jump, huh?
Yeah, it seems like it. It really does seem like a surprise surge. And the fact that so much money got liquidated in such a short period of time, well, it just shows you how much speculation there is in the Dogecoin market. People are using a lot of leverage, hoping for quick profits, and that could be really risky.
Gotcha. Okay, so even though the price jumped up, it sounds like the actual amount of Dogecoin being traded actually went down, right?
Yeah, that's right. The trading volume dropped by 7.61% during that same period.
Huh. So even though the price went up, people weren't necessarily rushing in to buy more Dogecoin.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It could be that some traders were just a little bit hesitant after that initial price spike. Maybe they were waiting to see what would happen next, or maybe it was just that a lot of those short positions got closed out, and that was the main driver of the price increase, not so much new buying interest.
So kind of a cautious optimism, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so this price bump didn't come with a ton of new conviction, but it did help Dogecoin's overall market cap, right?
Right.
Can you remind everyone what market cap means?
Oh, yeah, sure. Market capitalization, that's just the total value of all the Dogecoin that's out there.
Right.
So if the price goes up, the market cap goes up. Simple as that. And for Dogecoin, the market cap increased by over 7% after that price jump reached $23.34 billion.
And that's important because wasn't there some talk about another cryptocurrency, Tron, maybe overtaking Dogecoin in terms of market cap?
Yeah, there was. But this rebound helped Dogecoin stay ahead, at least for now.
For now, yeah. Who knows what'll happen tomorrow in the crypto world, right? Okay, so all that was happening around April 10th. But there was also some potentially good news for Dogecoin on the adoption front, wasn't there? Something about becoming more accessible in Europe.
Yeah, there was. 21 Shares, they're a company that creates those crypto exchange traded products, ETPs, and they announced that they were going to list a Dogecoin ETP on the SIX Swiss exchange. That's in Zurich. So that's a pretty big deal because it means that more people in Europe will be able to invest in Dogecoin easily.
Gotcha. So that could be a good sign for Dogecoin's long-term prospects. Okay, so we've got a picture of what happened with the price. Now let's zoom in a little bit and talk about the technical analysis. You highlighted some stuff from a crypto chartist named Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin. He's known as @KevCapitalTA on Twitter.
So what was he seeing?
He was seeing something called a bullish divergence.
Okay, stop right there. I know a lot of our listeners are familiar with this stuff, but just in case, can you break down what bullish divergence means?
Yeah, for sure. So imagine a car going downhill, but the engine's revving up. It doesn't quite make sense, right?
Oh.
Well, that's kind of what bullish divergence is like. The price of Dogecoin might be making lower lows, but some of the momentum indicators are showing that the selling pressure is actually weakening. So it's like, yeah, this price is still going down, but it might not go down for much longer.
Interesting. So he saw the signal even before the news about the tariff pause came out.
Yep. He actually pointed out that the macro news, the tariff pause, that definitely played a role in pushing the price higher. But he also said that the charts were already hinting at a potential upward move even before that news broke.
So that's where technical analysis can really be helpful, huh? I mean, if you know what to look for, you can potentially spot these trends before everyone else does.
That's the idea, yeah.
Okay, so what else was Kevin watching?
Well, he was really focused on a particular support level, 0.139 cents. He said it was super important for Dogecoin to stay above that level, and it did, even though it briefly dipped below it.
So he basically saw that as like a line in the sand. If Dogecoin stayed above that, it was a good sign.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so beyond that support level, did he have any thoughts on where the price might go next?
Yeah, he did. He used something called Fibonacci retracement and extension levels. Sounds complicated, but it's basically a way of identifying key price levels based on mathematical ratios. And based on that, he came up with a range of potential price targets for Dogecoin. The low end was 0.090338 towns, but the high end was way up at 2.26883 towns.
Wow, that's quite a range.
Yeah, for sure.
So what would need to happen for Dogecoin to actually reach those higher levels?
Well, he said that a lot depends on Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin, the biggest cryptocurrency, kind of sets the tone for the whole market. And he said that if Bitcoin can stay above $70,000, then those higher price targets for Dogecoin become a lot more likely. But if Bitcoin drops below that, well, all bets are off.
Got it. Okay, so we've looked at what's happened recently. We've gotten the technical perspective. Now, let's zoom out even further and talk long-term predictions. It looks like we've got some interesting stuff from Changelly and ChatGPT, but they're not exactly on the same page, are they?
No, they are not. In fact, there are some pretty big differences.
Okay, give us the details.
So for Dogecoin to hit $1, Changelly's prediction is April 2030. ChatGPT, on the other hand, thinks it could happen much sooner, between late 2025 and early 2026.
So a 5-year difference. Just for Dogecoin to reach $1, what about $2?
Same story, basically. Changelly says February 2032, ChatGPT says mid to late 2026. And this pattern continues for the $3 and $4 targets, too. Changelly is much more conservative, ChatGPT is much more optimistic. Like Changelly says Dogecoin could hit $5 by June 2034, but ChatGPT thinks it could happen as early as 2028.
Wow. Okay, so ChatGPT is really bullish on Dogecoin's future. Do we know why they're so optimistic?
Yeah, we had some clues. It seems like they're really banking on a strong, sustained bull market for crypto overall, with a lot of enthusiasm from retail investors, you know, the everyday people who are buying and selling crypto. They also think Elon Musk will continue to be a major factor, maybe through his tweets, maybe through integrating Dogecoin into his businesses. And then there's this whole idea of an altcoin season, where cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin and Ethereum see big price increases. ChatGPT thinks that's coming too.
Makes sense. Anything else?
Oh, yeah. They also think Dogecoin could get adopted as a payment method by some big tech companies, and they specifically mention X, formerly Twitter. They're also thinking about more institutional investment, you know, big companies and hedge funds getting into Dogecoin. And they're even factoring in the possibility of Dogecoin ETFs getting approved, you know, those exchange-traded funds that track the price of Dogecoin.
Wow, okay, so a lot of potential drivers there. And what about that really big prediction, Dogecoin reaching $5? What needs to happen for that to become reality?
Okay, so for that to happen, ChatGPT is basically saying that Dogecoin needs to become like the native currency of the internet. It needs to be used everywhere, integrated into all sorts of platforms and services like Starlink and online games. It's a really ambitious vision, but hey, anything's possible in the crypto world, right?
For sure, for sure. Okay, so we've got ChatGPT with their optimistic view, and then we've got Changelly with their more conservative view. But it sounds like we don't really know why Changelly is so much more conservative. Like, they don't give us the details on what their models are based on.
Yeah, that's true. It's possible that they're just looking at different factors, or maybe they're weighting the same factors differently. It's hard to say for sure without more information.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about the impact of tariffs. I mean, we saw how a pause on tariffs helped Dogecoin, but it sounds like tariffs can also have the opposite effect.
Absolutely. So around April 8th, 2025, there was news that the U.S. was putting some big tariffs on China, like 104%. And investors did not like that. It spooked them, made them worried about the global economy, and that led to a drop in the price of Dogecoin, about 4%.
So even though Dogecoin is this kind of fun, meme-based cryptocurrency, it's still affected by these big, serious economic events.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It just shows you that Dogecoin is still part of the global financial system, even though it's decentralized.
And it's volatile. I mean, it can move up and down really quickly, especially when there's uncertainty in the broader markets.
Absolutely.
Okay, so with all this volatility, it's not surprising that some financial advisors are saying, hey, be careful with Dogecoin. I know you looked at some stuff from the Motley Fool. What were they saying?
Yeah, so the Motley Fool, they put out an article around April 8th, 2025, and they basically said that Dogecoin is a very high-risk investment. And their main reason for saying that was that it's a meme coin, and meme coins tend to be really volatile. You know, their prices can swing wildly based on social media trends and market sentiment.
So basically, they're saying, hey, if you're going to invest in Dogecoin, be prepared to lose money.
Pretty much, yeah. And they specifically said that with all the uncertainty around tariffs and the global economy, it's probably best to avoid buying Dogecoin right now. They said it's better to focus on investments that have strong fundamentals, companies that are actually making money and have a solid track record.
Right, right. So it's interesting. We're seeing these very different perspectives on Dogecoin. On one hand, you've got the technical analysts saying, hey, the charts look good, the price could go up. And then you've got the long-term predictions, some of them really optimistic, based on this idea that Dogecoin could become super widely adopted. But then on the other hand, you've got the more traditional financial advice, which is basically, be careful, this is a risky investment.
Yeah, it's a real mix of signals, isn't it? It makes you think.
It does, it does. Okay, so let's try to sum this all up. It seems like Dogecoin's price is being influenced by a bunch of different things right now. There's overall market sentiment, whether people are feeling bullish or bearish. There are big macroeconomic events like those tariff decisions. There are technical trading signals that suggest the price could go up. And then there are those really optimistic long-term predictions about Dogecoin becoming the currency of the internet.
I think that's a really good summary. It's not just one thing. It's all these things coming together, pushing and pulling on the price of Dogecoin.
Right. Right. And even though we've seen some price increases, and even though there's a lot of excitement about Dogecoin's potential, we have to remember that it's still a high-risk investment. It can be really volatile, really unpredictable.
Couldn't agree more. I think that's the most important takeaway here.
Okay, so for everyone listening, as you're thinking about Dogecoin, as you're hearing all these different opinions and predictions, think about your own risk tolerance. How much risk are you comfortable taking? And think about your investment goals. What are you hoping to achieve?
Yeah, that's great advice. Investing is always a personal decision, and it's important to do your own research and make choices that are right for you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, this has been a fascinating look at Dogecoin, its recent activity, the different forces that are shaping its price, and the range of predictions for its future. But I want to leave you with a question to ponder. Given this mix of technical signals, speculative forecasts, and macroeconomic influences, what do you see as the single most significant factor that will determine Dogecoin's fate in the years to come? Food for thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.